Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Bonin and I will be presenting the research I have conducted on HEXACO-60 and the evaluation of the personality inventory in the context of the replication crisis. In the current presentation, we will go over the following. First, we will be presenting previous literature and findings to create context surrounding HEXACO-60 and the replication crisis. Next, we will explain the methods of the current study. We will then explain the analysis of our results and present the results that were acquired. And lastly, we'll finish off with a short conclusion. Personality is complex and multidimensional, leading to difficulties in standardization of measuring and studying personality. There are different kinds of personality scales, so how do researchers determine which scales to use and which scales carry significant validity in measuring personality? Researchers have relied on replication studies in order to validate scales by trying to replicate similar results from original studies. The current study attempts to validate HEXACO-60 among undergraduate students through the replication of Ashton and Lee's 2009 research study. The current study wishes to provide evidence of the validity of the scale and support Ashton and Lee's findings. Our first hypothesis is that there would be no significant correlation between corresponding HEXACO-60 traits, confirming the internal validity of the scale. Our second hypothesis is that if Ashton and Lee's results are correct, there will be a positive and significant correlation between honesty, humility, and agreeableness. And lastly, we hypothesize that there would be a significant positive correlation between HEXACO-60's extroversion and time spent outdoors, supporting the external validity of the scale. As for the methods of the study, participants included 60 Concordia University psychology students. In Psych 311 in the winter 2022 semester, only 56 participants' data were used for the analysis. 4 participants were discarded from the analysis because we wish to avoid any potentially skewed conscientiousness scores. Data was collected using scales and questionnaires such as the HEXACO-60 personality scale, the moral identity scale, the moral reasoning task, and 4 additional questions that assess estimated GPA, estimated time spent outdoors, ethical importance, and estimated level of intelligence. On the right, you can actually see an example of one of the questions that was used to assess personality, as well as the 5-point Likert scale that was used throughout the questionnaire. The procedure involved an online questionnaire, which began with instructions about the questionnaire. Then the HEXACO-60 personality inventory was conducted, followed by 4 additional questions. Lastly, the moral identity scale and the moral reasoning task were conducted before participants were informed that the questionnaire was complete. The major findings of the current study include a slight positive correlation between honesty, humility, and agreeableness, a slight positive correlation between extroversion and estimated time spent outdoors, and a slight positive correlation between honesty, humility, and conscientiousness. You can see the 2 honesty, humility, and conscientiousness correlations right here, and the honesty, humility, and agreeableness correlations right here in the graph. The significant findings of the current study are the slight positive correlation between honesty, humility, and agreeableness, between extroversion and estimated time spent outdoors, and between honesty, humility, and conscientiousness. The goal of the current study was to replicate and support Ashton and Lee's findings. Our first hypothesis that HEXACO-60 traits would not be correlated to one another was not supported due to the correlations of honesty, humility, and agreeableness, and honesty, humility, and conscientiousness. These correlations put into question the internal validity of the scale, because we could see that HEXACO-60 questions are related to other aspects and other personality traits. Secondly, our second hypothesis was that there would be a correlation between honesty, humility, and agreeableness. This finding was supported due to the replication of the positive correlation between the 2 traits, which was also seen in Ashton and Lee's findings. This finding supports the ability to replicate Ashton and Lee's findings, but is not extremely significant, as it puts into question the internal validity of the scale. Our third hypothesis was supported due to the presence of a positive correlation between extroversion and estimated time spent outdoors. This finding supports the presence of external validity of the scale because it shows a relationship between HEXACO-60 traits and the externally related qualities. These findings both support and do not support the validity and replication of Ashton and Lee's findings. Regardless of these mixed findings, Maxwell's 2015 paper addresses the replication crisis and states that it is important that multiple replication studies are conducted in order to replicate findings and not falsely reject Ashton and Lee's findings. Thus, meta-analyses should be conducted, and singular replication studies should not be relied on. In this situation, the current study cannot be relied on solely to either validate or not validate the HEXACO-60 scale, but could potentially be used in the future in a meta-analysis in order to validate the scale. Thank you so much for your time.